What is something nobody warns people about enough when it comes to having kids? Make sure your mental health is up to par when they become teenagers. I swear my youngest was going to drive me insane with all the worry she put me through with her mental health after her first boyfriend cheated on her with her best friend after a year of dating. There's a very good chance they won't turn out like you think. People seem to often forget that they're raising people, as in, independent thinking individuals whose actions, values, personalities, interests, and capabilities will potentially be completely unlike yours. I've seen a lot of parents struggle hard with that, and frankly, that's a possibility you should have made your peace with before you became a parent, in my opinion. I just saw a social media post that said something like, "Do you just want a baby or do you want to raise a human?" It was pointing out that everybody wants that cute baby, but that part lasts 1 year. You have to be prepared to raise people who will go out and do good things and disappoint you and screw up and everything in between. You have to parent the kid you have. The books are fine for ideas, your experience, friends' thoughts, pediatricians, therapists, but at the end of it all you have this complicated little person you're in charge of with their own preferences, feelings, insecurities, abilities, and you have to do what works for them and your family and, of course, also raise someone who isn't a blight on humanity or menace to society. As my mom says, the kid hasn't read the book. Her parents tried to do everything by the book with her and she hated it. She was supposed to have pigtails, wear dresses, learn piano and not go climb trees and play soccer/football. She saved pocket money to get her hair cut short and her dad almost hit her for it. Did she stop pushing to be herself? Nope. She is a strong woman, but boy, does she have some scars on her soul. With her own 3 kids she watched what interests they developed and then helped them explore it further and to not forget to keep an open mind about other possible hobbies, sports, arts, etc. I have no idea how to thank her properly for this. My dad is a bit like your mom. His big idea was to spend time with us doing things he liked when we were very young, so that we would share interests later in life. One of his sons likes engineering and mechanics, another 2 like history. I watched old films with him. He never forced us into anything, but let us find what we liked, and then engage in it with us in whatever way we liked. The days are long and the years are so very short. Oh God, my son used to wake up at 4 a.m. for a year and had no nap until noon. By noon I already felt like it was 10 p.m. For me, I stopped having a chance to think anything through without interruption. I had a very hard time with that. I couldn't remember anything, couldn't make decisions, etc., because every thought seemed to get interrupted. I'd just sit in my car alone sometimes so I could think. I am so glad somebody said this. I was starting to worry I was getting early onset dementia, because my mind just feels like mush all the time. I can't remember things. I start sentences and can't finish them. I forget common words. My mind rarely gets to switch off, because someone is always interacting with me or calling my name. Parenthood does not end when they turn 18. It's for the rest of your life. Corollary: it stings deep when they develop independence. My girl got her driver's license and now goes out to see her friends all the damn time, just like I did at 16. Given the emotional investment of parenting, it is really, really hard to see them go away like that. I don't know what I'm going to do when she moves along to college life and I no longer see her at breakfast every day. It is one of the 2 or 3 most absolute and permanent decisions you can make in life. Once you have kids, you have kids. No going back. No choosing differently. No letting time pass to heal any wounds. Not saying this is good or bad. It's just a permanent decision, if you don't take giving them up for adoption into account. When they grow older, you don't have a private life anymore. They stay awake longer than you. How important the years between 7 and 12 are for building a bond, one that lasts into the teenage years. They are so hard to listen to at that age with all the starts and stops in conversation, and they talk about the most boring things. But it is so important to listen and converse at those ages. They will grow into teenagers that will talk to you and be fun to talk to, but only if you can get through long boring conversations about Minecraft or whatever thing they are currently into. I can remember being about 12 and wanting to share my biggest interest at the time with my mom, that being bionicle. by reading to her all the books I had been collecting with my allowance. Sometimes she would involuntarily fall asleep, but my God, she tried so hard to show an interest. I really didn't appreciate it at the time, focused on all the times she yawned or fell asleep. But now, 16 years later, we both remember it fondly as the bonding time it really was. My dad had no idea who the characters in Bionicle were, but by God, he was going to listen to us intently and read the Bionicle magazine subscription we had after we did to try and figure it out. I once had to explain to the older child that we don't touch other people's private parts while nursing the baby. The boundaries change at different ages and it's hella confusing for the older one. My daughter is 21 months, so no privacy. She pointed at my peanuts while I was getting up from the toilet and said "Daddy's tail," and reached towards me. I've never pulled my pants up faster in my life. I was in bed and my 3-year-old daughter accidentally rested her hand right on my peanuts and promptly asked, "Did you poop?" Once they get out of the toddler stage, it can become extremely worrisome and time-consuming to parent them to become good people. They start asking questions, and they form their own opinions. It's a very delicate balance between trying to get them to listen to important things and trying to get them to become more independent. It makes you think you are constantly messing it all up. It can be very hard to find a balance. They are always listening. They know more than they can communicate. They simply don't have the words and concepts to share what they do grasp. This will lead to a lot of frustration, that they are always listening bit. Frick, so many people don't understand this. My sister has such a shoe temper and the way she behaves and reacts to things makes me worry so much for my nephews. I don't want them to grow up seeing that and going, well, this is what my mom does, so it's normal. I lived with them for 6 months and in that time, I did everything I could to make sure I always said I was wrong. I don't know, let's find out. And when something irritating happens, you just go, well, darn it. That's alright, or whatever works for the situation. You will never sleep the same again. It's just different levels of fear and worries as they get older. Also, I stupidly thought once I had a child I would automatically know how to parent. You're the same dummy before and after having a child, and you realize how much your parents were winging it. Leaving the hospital with that tiny fragile little being was terrifying. C-section deliveries, so they kept us a couple days longer. Lots of help from the amazing maternity ward, to the moment you realize you and your spouse are alone and now solely responsible for keeping this little baby alive. Yet, it's like, we can just leave? With the baby? Who approved this? Practicing diapers on a doll doesn't count. You're ready when you can do it on a cat. My first daughter was patient and would just let us change her. My second daughter wants nothing more than to roll over and crawl away. There's nowhere for her to go, but she wants to go anyway. It's like, I am physically orders of magnitude stronger than her. How the hell does she still win? Nothing prepared me for the sheer unrelentingness of parenting. Every day for many years has to be finished with a dinner/bath bed routine that takes 2 hours, regardless of how tired, upset or unwell you are. Difficult enough if you've been at work all day. Yes, but also if you're on holidays and got a little bit sunburnt, or been to a family wedding and overeaten, or spent the day assembling IKEA furniture and are just exhausted. As a childless adult, you could occasionally say, I'm just having takeaway tonight, and flop in front of the TV until bedtime. As a parent, that's not an option. You can lose who you are while you're raising them, but it's so important to take time for yourself to keep this from happening. Also, that you have to teach them to pull their pants up. I knew I would have to teach how to use the potty, eat, tie shoes, etc., but I was so caught off guard about having to explain how to pull pants up when getting dressed. It's a tricky maneuver for littles. Yet, one thing most people don't get, you have to teach them literally everything. And even better, they're not only learning the stuff you actively teach them, even if they choose to ignore it, but they are actively and unconsciously mimicking you at all times. So all the bad habits and little hypocrisies you have will be reflected right back at you tenfold and bite you right on the taint. Having kids is the best and worst thing I've ever done. How judgmental other people, especially other parents, can be. Well, my kids did XYZ and they all turned out fine. The sheer terror of losing one of them. My kids are adults. One is 40. If one of them dies before me, I don't think I could survive it. I wouldn't want to. And the fear is even worse when they're little and innocent and haven't at least had a life lived. Kids suck up unbelievable amounts of time, money, and energy. And that's if you get an average child. If your child has issues, mental, psych, neural, it just swallows your life, marriage, free time, etc. People warn you about this, but the reality is 100 times more. Kids these days are late leavers of households, and due to rising costs of living are currently more likely to return to the nest after multiple attempts at becoming independent. 18 to life applies. The lack of sleep you'll get. It's not just the baby stage. Obviously, it's until they are old enough to be trusted. The lack of sleep can make you such an angry person, especially over the years. I'm about 3 years in, and I'm so mentally exhausted. I don't know who I am anymore. Everything everyone else said plus the process itself. People don't talk enough about the recovery after giving birth. Pissed myself 4 months and had to self-diagnose diastasis recti and find workout programs on the internet, because even my female OB offered no help. You can also get a new beehole from tearing, bleed for 6 weeks straight, get titty blisters and dry cracked nipples from breastfeeding, and your core muscles can get totally destroyed to the point you have back problems. Is it worth it? Individual choice. I did it twice, never doing it again, because the lack of sleep was the worst part despite everything I just listed. Love my kids an insane amount and don't regret it, but there are times I miss my previously carefree lifestyle. Still wouldn't change it though.